The day had started like any other, but the heaviness in my chest told me it wouldn't end that way. For months, my mind had wandered through the cracks in our marriage, cataloging every cold glance, every half-hearted word, every conversation that felt like it belonged to strangers. I had already drafted the divorce papers, ready to sign without hesitation. Night after night, I told myself I deserved peace, that I had tolerated too much, that my patience had been a bridge burned one too many times. She moved through the house with quiet efficiency, seemingly oblivious to the storm brewing inside me. Or maybe she had simply grown accustomed to it. The silence between us had become a third presence, filling every room with a sense of inevitability. I had convinced myself that leaving was the only option, that any warmth or laughter between us had long since died. But that afternoon, something made me linger outside the living room. A soft murmur pulled me closer. Curiosity, or perhaps something deeper. I froze at the doorway, my heart tightening in a way I hadn't felt in months. She was on the phone, but not in the way I had imagined. Her voice was gentle, tender even, speaking to someone I couldn't see. The words that reached me were soft, careful, and completely unexpected. It wasn't what she was saying that stopped me. It was how she said it. The care in her tone, the vulnerability I hadn't noticed in years, hit me harder than anything else could. Suddenly, the certainty I had carried for so long felt fragile. My hand shook slightly around the papers I'd clutched for so long. There was a side of her I had forgotten, a part that hadn't disappeared, only hidden beneath the surface, waiting for this moment. For the first time in months, I questioned whether leaving was really the answer. I stepped back quietly, careful not to interrupt the fragile rhythm of her voice, yet unable to pull myself away. The conversation continued, revealing thoughts I hadn't imagined she held. Worries, doubts, even fears about us, but not in the way I expected. She wasn't lamenting arguments or grievances. She was speaking about her own silent struggles, afraid to burden me, afraid to show weakness, yet still loving me in her own quiet, complicated way. Every word sliced through the walls of resentment I had carefully built over months. I felt them crumble brick by brick, realizing I had been blind to her efforts, blind to the love she had tried to show in ways I had refused to see. The papers in my hands suddenly felt like a monument to my own assumptions. The divorce I had prepared so confidently now wavered, no longer a solution, but a potential regret. Then came the phrase that cut deeper than anything else. She whispered, almost to herself, "I just wish he knew I'm still here, even when it feels like he isn't." It wasn't a plea, not a confession meant to manipulate. It was a quiet truth, exposing the gap between us, a gap I had been ready to cross in haste. I sank to the edge of the doorway, mind racing. All the arguments, the silence, the frustration, they suddenly seemed small, insignificant compared to the reality of her heart, the side of her I had forgotten existed. And in that moment, I understood that the ending I had anticipated might not be the end at all. I stayed there, listening, absorbing, letting the weight of her words sink in. The anger, frustration, the certainty that had guided my hand toward the divorce papers, all of it felt distant, almost foreign. I realized that in my focus on leaving, I had missed the signs, the quiet gestures, the subtle attempts to bridge the distance between us. She hadn't stopped caring. I had stopped noticing. When she finally hung up, she turned. For a brief moment, our eyes met. The look she gave me was soft, weary, yet open, a silent acknowledgement of the walls we had both built. I felt the air between us shift, a fragile space carrying the possibility of something I hadn't dared hope for in months. Without a word, I set the papers on the table, their finality replaced by uncertainty. But this uncertainty felt alive, full of potential. My voice was low but steady. "I hear you. I see you. And maybe we haven't lost each other after all." Her eyes widened, a mix of surprise and relief. And in that instant, I knew the moment I had been waiting for, without realizing it had arrived. It wouldn't be easy. It wouldn't be perfect overnight. We had work to do, conversations to have, trust to rebuild. But for the first time in months, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. Hope that love, even when battered by assumptions and silence, could be rediscovered. And as we sat there quietly, facing the truth of our hearts, I realized something. The revelation you need sometimes doesn't come in final decisions. It comes in the honesty of a single, unexpected moment.